All right, ladies and gentlemen, live reaction because the New York Knicks are up 2-0. They are up 2-0 on the defending champion Boston Celtics. This was a team that got blown out 3 out of the 4 meetings in the regular season. This is a team that on probably the New York Knicks' best offensive performance in the regular season, Karl Anthony Towns having his best game against the Knicks all season, it still went to overtime and they still lost. So when we look at the playoffs and we look at 2 games into the series, this is probably the last thing that anybody could have predicted would to happen in this season. And I think this shows why regular season matchups do not matter when it comes to May, when it comes to April. It just doesn't matter at all. Because we now have back-to-back games where the New York Knicks have looked like the better team offensively and defensively in the fourth quarter. Mikal Bridges with 2 game-saving blocks again. And all around, the New York Knicks were just the better team. They were the better team when it mattered most. Boston has thoroughly outplayed New York for 6 out of the 8 quarters in these games, but they still come up 2-0. And what makes this more impressive is this has happened in Boston. This isn't happening in Madison Square Garden. The Boston Celtics have to go back to Madison Square Garden down 2-0. And I'm personally cheering for the Celtics just because I'm a Jason Tatum guy. I like Jason Tatum. I like his game. But man, you can only defend Tatum but so much. And there's just possessions in this game where it's just he's not being aggressive. For example, in the third quarter, Jason Tatum has the switch on Mitchell Robinson. Instead of attacking it, he's holding the ball up here, looking for a pass when you are the advantage creator for this team. You standing here looking for someone to pass it to isn't creating the advantage that this team needs to be functional. And then by the time he does make a decision to attack the basket or to attack as a scorer, the New York Knicks have already loaded up on the strong side. So now every lane he has to create an advantage is plugged up by guys like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. And this is just another game where the Boston Celtics did not shoot well from 3. Another night where Boston Celtics shoot under 30% from 3. They were 10 for 40 from the 3-point line and were 25% altogether. And when we take a look at some of the 3-point shots from the Celtics, Jaylen Brown 2 for 7, Jason Tatum 1 for 5, Derek White 3 for 11, Al Horford 0 for 5, Drew Holiday 0 for 2. And it's like when you start out the game, the Boston Celtics looked like they were a lot more aggressive getting downhill, but the more the lead grew, the more they got away from it. And when you see like a team that has won a championship, you would think that like, look, we've been up 20 points, especially last game. Last game was supposed to be the game where the New York Knicks caught us slipping. They caught us slipping. We had a 20-point lead and we just went away from what we were doing and we got cold from 3 and we continued to shoot 3s. Now we're up 20 again. It's the same exact situation. The Knicks just keep poking away at the lead, and we're still falling into those traps of shooting 3s. Don't get me wrong. The looks were great. These guys are getting consistent, really good looks, but if they're not falling, you have to go to something else. There comes a point where if you're up 25 and the lead is cut to 9, maybe you should go away from the 3s. This video isn't going to be too long because we're right in between the Thunder and Nuggets game. So I really want to talk about, I really want to go watch that, but we're just going to get this out real fast. First thing I do want to say, even if the Celtics would have won this game, I would have really been critical of how they won this game. Because if you watch the Hoop Talk podcast with me and Mars, we're big on process over outcomes, meaning the process of this win for the Boston Celtics was not the process they would need to win later down the line. There are a lot of better teams equipped to guard the Boston Celtics than there was last year in the playoffs. I'm talking about a team in the Western Conference who's about to play. And I just believe that if you're not going to create rim pressure, they're much better at rotating on the perimeter and getting hands up against these teams. And before we move on to the New York Knicks, I want to talk about Jason Tatum because again, the shot selection isn't the best. When the shot isn't falling, it looks really bad. Like, shout out to him, 14 rebounds, got some assists, did his thing outside of scoring. But there are points where this Boston Celtics offense has just gotten really cold, and Jason Tatum isn't doing anything to help that. You are supposed to be the guy that's supposed to lead this team to the finals. You're supposed to be the best player on this team. You're supposed to be a top 5 player in the league. I don't understand why it is so hard for Jason Tatum to create offense as consistently. They didn't get anything easy. They weren't getting to the rim. They weren't getting to the free throw line. They were relying on very tough shots. Even when Jason Tatum got the mismatch he wanted, it was still a lot of very tough shots. Now, we are going to move on to the New York Knicks. I just want to say, shout out to the New York Knicks, because I'm one of the guys, I'm sure 98% of the basketball world said the New York Knicks were going to lose this series in 5 games. Even New York Knicks fans were saying they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get destroyed. They're not going to win more than 1 game. And when you look on paper, this is just a really bad matchup for the New York Knicks. The problem is the Boston Celtics have executed this entire series poorly. They did not execute properly for this series. And this is what happens when you have the best closer in the NBA. Jalen Brunson is the best closer in the NBA. He is one of the best fourth quarter performers in the NBA. He is one of the best fourth quarter performers I've seen with my own 2 eyes. And if you're going to consistently let them chip away at the game from the third quarter all the way to halfway in the fourth, and then you just don't have the level of closer that the Knicks have, they're always going to have a chance to win this game. I truly don't know what to make of this series. I really don't. I really don't know what to make of this series, because if Boston just snaps their head on straight, they could win 4 straight games. But I don't know how much the Boston Celtics are going to be able to switch their scheme, because this is something that they just don't go away from. When the Boston Celtics aren't shooting the ball correctly, they don't change anything. They don't move to a different offense. They don't change their defensive scheme. They are willing to die by the gun that they hold. And I just think that's something that could be really dangerous, because I've seen multiple games, especially against the Thunder, the both times they played the Thunder in the regular season. The Boston Celtics, when they are not making threes, they just rely on the shot falling eventually. And these past 2 games, they have not fallen. I do want to say shout out to Karl Anthony Towns. I said in my preview video, Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to be aggressive when they send guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford guarding him. And I feel like that's what he did. Now, he is still a little foul prone. He still sends guys to the free throw line a lot. But this level of scoring from Karl Anthony Towns is what they really needed, because Jalen Brunson was not good throughout the first 3.5 quarters. I want to say shout out to Mikal Bridges, because I feel as though this was not the best defensive season from him, and probably not the best past few years defensively from him. But the way he's been able to step up as a roamer, as recognizing plays and just blowing up actions, I feel as though he was really good in that aspect as well. And the Knicks are up 2-0. I cannot believe that. Like, this was like, I'm not gonna lie, this is like, I was speechless. For like the last 3 minutes of the game, something was telling me by Boston's body language, they just weren't going to win the game. They weren't going to win the game. You can tell, like, they just weren't willing to do anything else outside of shoot threes. And I'm sorry if I seem a little distracted, because the OKC Thunder game did just start. So I'm trying to really lock in on that. But my takeaway from this is the Pacers are going to the finals. The Pacers are going to the finals, man. That's what it's going to be.